This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Friday, January the 10th, 2025. So glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on in the program, we'll visit with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net to find out what happened in those closing markets, especially after the WASDE report and also the stocks report and the year-end grain production reports from the USDA here today. But first, we're going to talk with Robb Ewoldt, an Iowa soybean farmer and member of the United Soybean Board of Directors. We'll talk about what's going on here in 2025. We're here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network on Ag Matters PM, and I'm talking right now with Iowa farmer and member of the United Soybean Board, Iowa Soybean Association, and much more, Robb Ewoldt. Robb, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Really looking forward to the conversation.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about the United Soybean Board, got a new executive committee. I know we talked with April Hemis as she was coming off the board. In fact, when we talked with her, she was enjoying the fact that everybody else was in meetings and she was sitting in her bedroom in her hotel room watching TV. So, but let's talk about here in 2025, what we can expect with the United Soybean Board and what's going on in that executive committee.
Well, new executive committee, there's a lot of familiar faces on that, but there was also four new directors elected to the executive committee, which was pretty neat. Four. And we got a challenge ahead of us. Soybean prices are pretty down, and we got a lot of farmers that are relying on us to try to increase that demand right now. It's especially on the demand side. So that's what our main goal is, to try to keep the soybean farmer profitable.
We were talking before we went on here, Robb, about the fact that there are some tight margins. You're going to almost need a bumper crop in soybeans right now, the way things are sitting at this point, to really make a good go of it. And that's some real tough decisions that are having to be made by some of these producers this year.
It's and I'm one of those producers. I mean, it's really a challenge. And I'm not sure it's a demand thing. We have to figure out how to increase this demand. We're fortunate to have some great organizations that USB partners with, and one of those being USEC, and they're out there in about 80 different countries trying to develop these markets and grow these markets and show the difference between us and South America, our competition, and trying to get a little bit more of this product moved out of the country.
And that is an interesting situation because obviously the soy checkoff can't control the weather, can't control the markets. If you guys could, I think people would donate more money per bushel. But obviously getting that soybean amount of carryover that we have and amount we've got in stock, and knowing that Brazil's just adding more, that is a tough decision. But one thing I think that I know I've been talking with USEC and talking with the United Soybean Board in the past, if anything good came out of the pandemic a couple of years ago, it taught us not to keep all our eggs in one basket. Also, with the trade wars we had a couple of years back with China as well. And I really think, and I've really seen a lot of upgrade into those market strategies to market to more growing economies.
We are, and we look at that North Africa market. We look at some opportunities happening in Europe right now. As we look at China's kind of flattened out, and China obviously shows a preference towards Brazil, which is unfortunate for us. But we have some real advantages going over to Europe and North Africa, and especially with how well our beans, the quality and the storage, and how long they can keep those beans there. So that's one of the big things that we push for, and we also can look into kind of Central Africa too, in some of those countries where the population's really starting to grow. I think there's some great opportunities there. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, unfortunately, but I think we got a great start over there, and who knows what it looks like in 5 years down the road in those developing markets.
And as we talk both with the soybean growers and other commodity groups, and talking with government officials working on trade as well, that you guys have made several trips overseas to these countries to really help develop that and tell that story in person. And how important is that in this day and age when you've got so many options, Brazil, United States, and we're talking quantity versus quality in some cases, to get that face time with some of these customers, how important is that?
I think that's probably the most important thing. I mean, we do, as a director, we do take a lot of trips. As I'm finding out, as sitting on the executive committee, you take more trips. But when you do those face-to-face meetings with the buyers is huge. I've had lots of opportunities already in my to travel and to meet with these buyers, and they have an idea of what we're doing, but until they talk to the farmer and they hear the actual production practices, the sustainability, the quality, the care that the American farmer has for the soil and stuff, it changes their mindset. And yes, price still comes into play, but this is one of those things that can tip it in our favor when they meet us. And that's why we need to keep going out to these countries and visiting and telling our story and explaining how great the soybean is from the United States.
Now, obviously, we know that marketing both internationally and domestically, finding more uses, driving demand is a big part of what the United Soybean Board is doing. Tell us a little bit, maybe what's on the front burner here as we're looking at 2025.
Well, we have some great opportunities domestically on the soybeans and in demand, and I think some of the things that maybe our membership doesn't realize is where some of the soy oil, some of this high oleic oil is going. We have some great partnerships with some companies that are putting it into like chainsaw oil and different types of lubricants like that. We also have a thing really developing in the dairy industry when it comes to high oleic soybeans and feeding the whole bean or a roasted bean to those dairy cows and really improving the quality of the milk and the component pricing. So that is a big driver right now that we're looking at, and obviously we need to do some more research and some more studies into that, but it really shows promising for those farmers that would be growing in big dairy areas. I think it really could be a game changer for them.
Now, Rob, you and I have talked many times, both when you were with the American Soybean Association, leading the Iowa Soybean Association, even back when I first got here and you were doing regional stuff there in your part of Iowa. Farmers looking at what we talked about earlier, the market prices being tough, that margin for income and error being so tight. Sometimes looking at, well, giving a buck off a bushel of soybeans, that's just taking off more money. Where do they need to understand that return on investment is coming with? I know it's something we've talked about quite a bit.
Well, we're required by the act and the order that we have to do an economic evaluation every 4 to 5 years, and we just had one come out, and it shows that for every dollar that we're spending of the checkoff, that it's returning us about $12.30, which is a great return. I mean, I think any farmer would love to take that as a return. So it is working. Some people might question that number, but it's the best stuff that we have to work with. And I'm going to rely on the economists that are doing that. But the thing that I like to point out to farmers about this checkoff is where we started and where we're at right now. We started with maybe a billion bushel crop and a price 30 years ago at 650 or so. You can pick your number. But then now look at where we're at, where we're producing over 4 billion bushels of beans a year in the United States. And we have a price, granted it's not great today, but a price of $9.50 to $10 on the, maybe 11 on the futures if you can go out far enough. But when you have that, showing what we're doing, we increase the productivity for the farmer, and we have also increased that demand over that time frame. And I think it's money well spent, because who else is going to invest in our business if it's not the farmers doing it on our own?
And I guess final question I have for you today, Rob, obviously not every farmer serves on a capacity like you do with the United Soybean Board, American Soybean Association, much more. If farmers want to, though, help that mission grow and succeed, what kind of things can they be doing to help support the industry other than just growing the soybeans every year?
I tell you what, the way I started was at the state level and just reaching out and starting to attend some of those state meetings that they put out there where they can educate you on what's happening and try to get you involved. And it is an eye-opening experience that I can attest to. That when I got on, I wasn't quite sure what soybean checkoff did, and I can tell you that by being involved, that it made me a heck of a lot better farmer than I ever would have been had I not been involved in this organization. So it gives back greatly. It is a time commitment, and you just got to choose your level that you want to get involved.
Well, Rob, we thank you so much for the insight of what's going on with the United Soybean Board and what the committee is looking forward to, and looking forward to talking to you more about that here as your time goes on. And Rob, thanks so much, and good luck in that 25 growing season.
Yeah, well, I'm going to need it, and good luck to the rest of the farmers out there listening, because it is a challenge, but just know you're not in it alone.
And that again was Robb Ewoldt of the United Soybean Board of Directors. We're going to take a short break now and hear from the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we'll run down those closing markets with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. We're back here on Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and time to run down the closing market numbers. And I'm talking right now with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Curt, it was report day. What did we see come out of that, and how did the markets react?
Boy, it was nice to have a up Friday and through here, just a real bullish enthusiasm. The overall market sector feels like watching some of these bowl games. I tell you, real close up and down. If you've been watching the camera guys take a picture of the crowd, they're going, yeah. And the next thing, oh, it's kind of like what the market's doing. So today we got a yay. But the bottom line is the yields came in lower than expected. Corn yield 179.3. That's basically about 3 bushels below what the trade was looking for. Bean yield 50.7 as a nation. That's about 1 bushel below what the trade was looking for. So what this did is this tightened up the ending stocks quite a bit as a whole. Corn ending stocks 154. And the significance of that number is if you go back to last May and spring when we started looking at this crop, they carry out clear up to 2.223, and we're significant below that. And price wise, we're still quite a bit below those late winter, early spring highs. So had to put a little risk premium in it. Bean carry out 380 million bushels. The trade was looking for 457. So, a big shortfall there. Still ample supplies. When you look at the beans, 380 is tighter, but it's doable. The world supply demand balance sheet still kind of ample when you look at the world numbers. Not a whole lot of world changes on production. The Southern Hemisphere, I think that as we get into the next few reports, they'll start revising that and dialing that in quite a bit. On the world supply demand balance sheet for corn and the U.S. supply demand balance for sheet, both those are tight. So fundamentally, corn supplies are a little bit tighter. The grain stocks report a little less than expected, and that was a reflection of the yield numbers here, Dustin.
All right. And so then obviously livestock watches the grains, especially when it comes to feeding. What did they do in response? What did they kind of do here today, cattle and hogs?
Well, they held in there. The fat market was, on the week up about $4 to $5. The hogs up $1.70 on the week. The cattle held in there and closed higher on the day. Hogs did too. Overall, this fat market continues to be a bottle rocket. The early week calls in were, did you know I got $2 on fats? Wow. So we continue to see strong demand. That's great because we're seeing a lot of imports from Brazil coming into the country, and this demand is just huge. Consumption's huge. I think we shied away from the soy burgers to ribeye steak burgers or whatever. So demand remains relatively strong. Then plus two, the weather forecast. We're looking at transportation issues, but we're going to be looking at some mud. We're going to be looking at some colder temperatures. So overall feed consumption remains relatively strong. So the hog market kind of turned technically up. The fat market moved into the new highs. And those feeders, you just can't touch them. They're too hot.
All right. Well, if folks want to look at some of their market strategies, talk about what they should be doing with their plans, what's the best way for them to get in touch with agmarket.net?
You can go to our website, agmarket.net, or else you can give us a call here at 1-800-779-1515. Actually, you might want to check out the website this weekend, because this afternoon here shortly, we're going to have a team meeting on what they feel the market's going to do now that we've seen these numbers.
All right, Curt Kimmel, thanks so much for the insight, and we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Very good. Have a good weekend.
And that's been a check of your markets with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Let's look at those closing numbers. You can find them at iowaagnet.com under the market tab. March corn was up 14.5 at 470.5. Soybeans up 26.25 at 10.25 Soybean meal down $1 at 298.30 per ton. Soy oil $2.82 higher at 45.58. Chicago wheat down 3.25 at 5.30 Minneapolis spring wheat up 3/4 at 5.84 Kansas wheat up 1.5 at 5.51 Oats up 6 cents at 3.28 Live cattle were up $1.17 at 198.77. Feeders up 3.12 at 272.35. Lean hogs up 77 cents at 82.55. Pork cutouts up 32 cents at 88.85. And that's been our closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of this week's shows. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com, as well as find us on Facebook, X, and on our YouTube channel. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified each time we put out a new video project. Also, don't forget about our podcasts. You can catch replays of Iowa Ag Matters, Weekend Ag Matters, Pods of Potential, Between the Pods, and much more at iowaagnet.com. And you can get those signed up to be delivered free of charge to your mobile device, along with our thrice daily market podcast for the openings, middays, and closings. So you're always in the know about our market movements. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Andy Peterson, Mark Magnuson, and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.